Biggest Little Podcast number 6. Did that give you goosebumps? Did you have to turn it off or skip ahead? I don't blame you. It's fucking terrifying. Biggest Little Podcast number 6. We're going to talk about anxiety, right? Don't you love anxiety? I wish they had anxiety pills where you can just take them and just it gives you a calculated amount of anxiety. That's stupid. Why would you ever want that? But first, before we get into that, there's a couple things I want to talk about first. There's a couple of thoughts that I left out of the last podcast number 5, part 2, about love. And I think this is really important. And maybe I touched base on it, but I can't remember. But there's a couple things I want to say. And so we talked about love, right? Did you guys like that? Did you like that podcast? Did you? I did. I totally hit it off the cuff too. I had a couple of notes, but I kind of took off on it, and that's actually why I forgot a couple of things. So, but love, the whole idea of boyfriend and girlfriend, even husband and wife, I think are kind of redundant. Is that the right word? They seem kind of pointless. And I don't think that, like, if you have a boyfriend, you have a girlfriend, you like them, you love them, that's great. If you have a husband, you have a wife, you're married, that's great. Like, I'm not shitting all over it. I'm speaking in very general terms. But it seems like love isn't about possession. That's what I talked about before. It's not about obsession. I'm also saying it's not about possession. That whole adage of if you love someone, set them free if they come back, blah, blah, blah. Very corny, but there's truth to it in that you can't ever really own someone. They can't ever belong to you, just like you can never belong to them. All you can do is just share yourself with each other, and for however long that person's willing to give themselves to you and you give themselves to them, and however long they're willing to accept you and you're willing to accept them. And I feel like the title of boyfriend and girlfriend is something that we put on each other, or husband and wife. That's just a more legal version of it, and a more serious sounding one, but really it's the same shit. It's the same shit. I feel like we put those titles on each other so that we can feel like that person's mine now. She's my girlfriend. No, she's not Susan. She's my girlfriend. My girlfriend's name is Susan. And I feel like we put those titles upon each other so that we can feel like that person's never going to go away. Like, oh, they're finally my girlfriend. That's it. Now I just have to maintain the upkeep, and that person is never going to go away again. And you kind of trick yourself, fool yourself into believing that person is never going to go anywhere just because they're your girlfriend, and it's just a word. It's just a word. And in reality, that person can leave at any time. And that's what we're terrified of. We're terrified of the fact, and we all know this, You might fool yourself into thinking, you might keep it out of sight and out of mind, but the reality of it is that your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your husband or your wife could walk out that door and disappear for forever without even saying anything. Everyone has that within them to just do that. That's unless you literally have them tied down with a chain or rope, they can, in theory, just leave at any moment. And that terrifies us. We don't want to think about that. We want to believe that it's always going to be good, or at least they're always going to be there. They're not, though. They could leave at any moment. And that's okay. You kind of have to accept that and realize that nothing's permanent in the world. I mean, I'm not just talking about relationships or love. Nothing is permanent. Everything's going to change. Everything's going to die. And no one's ever going to get a solid erection again. There it is. Dick joke. No, but that's what we're terrified of. We're terrified that it can end at any moment, so we put titles on each other to try and feel safe. But you know what? I think you should always live, not in fear, but you should live with that understanding that this is not permanent, and that while I have it, while it's still here, wow, what a blessing. How fucking lucky am I that this person is here right now. They're not dead. That they didn't get fucking shot in the head by a gunman, or that they didn't get hit by a car, or that they didn't just decide that I'm leaving. And that's an everyday thing. It should be an everyday thing. Do I do that every day? No, of course not. Should I do that every day? Of course. Should we do that every day? Absolutely. And again, it just comes down to appreciation. Not even love. I don't know. Is it just appreciation? Just be glad that there's someone who's willing to smell your farts. Who's willing to, I don't know. He's just willing to be there. And appreciate that they haven't left. And they should, in turn, appreciate that you haven't left too. And here's one last final small note about this. If you're in a relationship and you want to leave, fucking leave. Yeah, I get it. Financial constraints, or we're kind of tied up for this or that. You know what? Those things are not permanent, and that's not the rest of your life. The rest of your life is the rest of your life. And if it's not going to be with this person, fucking suck it up and move on. It's that simple. It's hard, but it is that simple. Just do it. Just do it. Make it happen. Live your life. All right. So today we're going to talk about anxiety. Anxiety's been a very close and personal friend to me at the youngest of ages. So yesterday, I was at work, and where I work, they have like a little dining hall where employees can eat there, and it's pretty sweet. You ever want a decent job, just find somewhere where they feed you, and that's pretty sweet. But I was leaving that dining hall, and I was crossing. There's an outside path that I was taking to get back to the other side of the place that I was trying to go to, and I was crossing the section where there's like a little bike area where there's bike racks where I keep my bicycle, and there's also like an air pump because there's a bike path that cuts through where I work, and so, you know, cyclists are always going through there, and I was just crossing through to get to the other side of the building, and I saw a guy there. His bike was, upside down, and the wheel was off, and it's just obvious he's doing some work on it. And as I'm walking by, and, you know, I'm a cyclist. I keep tools on me all the time. They're always in my bag. So I see him, and I'm just ask, hey, man, do you need anything? Are you good? And he right away, he's like, you got some tools? I'm like, yeah, I got some tools. What do you need? He's like, I need a wrench. I was like, dude, I got a wrench. I'll be right back. And, it's just good. Cyclists are awesome because every cyclist at some point has been in that situation where, fuck, I got a flat, or fuck, this is broken, or fuck, that's broken, and fuck, I don't have my tool with me, that one tool that I need to do this. And everyone's been there at some point. So pretty much any cyclist you come across, if they have something to help another cyclist out, they'll stop and do it, just because there's just that kind of brotherhood-ish kind of thing, just really friendly kind of thing. So, and I've been helped before by a cyclist, so it's just one of those things. You pay it forward. You come across someone else, you help them out. So, I go back and I go in and I grab some tools, and I come out, and when I bring him the tools, I bring out my bag, and I'm like, so what do you need, man? He's like, and he looks up and realizes that I was serious. And that's immediately when I start to realize that this guy's rough. Like, he looks rough, and he's probably a street person, homeless person, whatever you want to call them. And he looks at me, he's like, hey, that if you got the time, I don't need it. He's immediately started to backpedal, and was like giving me an out, a reason to just like walk. He started getting nervous. He started getting anxious. And I just looked at him. I was like, no, man, it's cool. What's up? What do you need? What's wrong with your bike? And I sat down, because he was sitting on a bench. And I sat down and I was like, let's figure this out. And he was very apprehensive. He was very anxious. He's like, all right, man, all right, sure. And we started talking a bit. I asked him his name. And his name's Omar. And I don't mind saying that because I don't think he'd mind one bit. Very nice guy. Very nice guy. He had this big, cheesy kind of smile. I think he's Mexican, so like he's got like these bigger, what do you call it? He's got like a big jawline. So when he smiles, he's got a big smile. So like his jawline gets even bigger when he smiles. And he reminded me of Cheech Marin, but a Mexican version. So, anyways, he once I sat down, he was still a little apprehensive, but I realized that normal people don't really ever probably talk to him. And if they do, it's one, have you ever walked past a bum on the street or somebody who is asking for money, and you get that awkward, like, oh, fuck, I don't want to be an asshole because this guy obviously has a hard life, but he's going to fucking ask me for money, and then you get really defensive, and then you're like, I just want this to end. I just want to keep walking. I want to go back to my life where I don't have to think about these people. And I just want to keep going. And they're standing there looking at you, and you're like, fuck, he's looking at me. And then you either cave and you give him $1, or you get really hard and you're like, nah, man, I'm sorry, I don't have anything, whatever, and you keep walking. Those people, that's their life. And I'm not saying that he was a panhandler. He didn't ask anything from me. In fact, he lied to me, because what he needed was a patch for his inner tube for his bike. And when I walked up and I said, hey, man, I got patches. And he's like, oh, no, man, that's cool. I got patches. And I go, well, do you have them with you? And he goes, no. And I was like, well, then you need some patches, right? And he's like, yeah, man, but I don't want to bother you. I don't want to bother you. And I told him, dude, it's cool. It's cool. And I handed it to him. I was like, just that's yours. Take it. You need patches. And it wasn't even out of like, oh, you're obviously a bum. Here, take this charity. It was from one cyclist to another. It had nothing to do with what I thought his life might have been like. It was just simply, I'm trying to make sure you get wherever you're going. You could have been a rich fuck with a really nice bike, but this rich fuck happened to not have any patches, and he had a flat tire. So here's some patches so that you can get home to your mansion. It doesn't matter either way. It's just helping a person in need. And when he finally started to loosen up a bit, he was very grateful, and he was just happy that someone was just being normal to him. And he started talking about his life, and the anxiety started creeping back in because he realized that he was in a vulnerable position now, because now that he let that wall down, it was obvious, like, yes, he is a street person. And I'm sitting there in my work uniform, which makes me look very professional, and I just got my hair cut, so I'm looking very, very clean. And just the stark contrast between me and him, and he was aware of it, and it was obvious that he was judging himself against me, and he probably thought that I was doing the same thing, when in reality I couldn't care less what he looks like. It doesn't matter to me. It's people are people. That's it. So he goes and he says to me, look, you probably think that I'm this or that because, I'm a street person. And that's when he admitted that he's a street person. And, you probably think that this and that because a street person. And I just tell him, no, man, you're just a person. You're not a street person. You're a person because you're a person and I'm a person. We're all just people. And he looks at me and he's looking at me like he hasn't heard, like he's never heard that before. And he's by no stretch was he a naive person, but he was definitely a damaged person. Have you ever seen a dog that's been out on the street for so long, or a cat even, and when you go to approach them to be like, hey, what's up? You stick your hand out so that they can like smell it. You crouch down low and they look at you and they get scared. And even though you're trying to be as unintimidating as possible, they're still like skittish. Like, I don't know, man. You got to understand that the life I live, I can't trust anything. That was him. And then that cracked and he looked at me and he's like, is this guy being real? He's being real. And then just like that, boop, the anxiety was gone. And we were just two dudes just sitting out in the sun. It was a good day and he's fixing his bike and he starts telling me about his life and the anxiety was gone. And he was a fucking rad dude. He was awesome. And yeah. So there's an example of anxiety, and this happened yesterday. And anxiety's a cunt, isn't it? I think a lot of people will suffer from it at lots of ages. It doesn't matter what age you're at. Some people have anxiety about a lot of things, and they're not even aware that it's anxiety. They don't even know what anxiety is. They know the word, they've heard the word, but they're completely unaware that they're suffering from it. And you can have anxiety about anything. You can have anxiety about a test that you're going to have to take tomorrow. You can have anxiety about a date that you have coming up. You can have anxiety about test results. Testing about what? Ooh, I don't know. You got anxiety about it though? Probably. You have anxiety about lots of things. You can have anxiety about how the episode is going to end about one of your favorite shows. You're like, oh fuck, I really hope Jon Snow doesn't die. Oh god, if Jon Snow dies, I'm just like, fuck, I don't want Jon Snow to die. Anxiety. And I mean, at the youngest of ages, I was a very anxious kid. For sure, anxious kid. Before I even understood what anxiety was, I get anxiety over anything. Anything. If somebody was walking up to me, social anxiety was my kind of anxiety. That was like the biggest one. And I mean, it kind of still is to date, but I mean, I'm better with it now. Obviously, because I have a podcast where anyone could be listening to it. But even like as a kid, if somebody was walking up towards me and I was like, "Oh fuck, this person looks like they're gonna say something to me," it could be anyone. It could be anyone. What are they gonna say? I don't know how to respond to that. But I don't know what they're going to say, so how do I know how to respond to it? Quick, come up with some scenarios where we might be able to figure out what they're going to say so I can think of an appropriate response. Oh, fuck, here they come. The thing about anxiety is when you start, for me anyways, and I think this is pretty common with just about anyone, is that, you get anxiety, or you start to think about it, and your brain starts to speed up, and you start thinking about possibilities, and you start fearing those outcomes of those possibilities, and then you don't realize it. But the second you started doing that, your breath starts to get shallow and shallower and shallower and shallower, and you don't even realize it. And the thing about not breathing that much is that you're suffocating. And I don't know if you've ever suffocated before, but it's not very good on the brain. Your heart rate increases, your blood starts pumping more, so your body starts to flush, you start getting hotter, and you start realizing that you're getting hotter, or at worst, you don't realize that you're getting hotter, and you just start to get really uncomfortable. You start getting hot flashes, and then the hot flashes make you panic more, and you're like, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck. And now you're not functioning very well. That's how anxiety was for me. Holy fuck, if I ever had to be on the phone with someone between the ages of like 9 and 23, I was at the youngest of ages. If I ever had to be on the phone with someone, for some reason, I would speak in a whisper. I would speak like this. I would speak in a whisper, and I would take my hand that wasn't holding the phone, and I would cover my mouth, because I was so very paranoid of someone else in the room hearing what I was saying for some reason. And I would be speaking so quietly that I, for sure, with my young, raspy Ellen DeGeneres, if she decided to make the transition into a male and voice, I would sound like a woman, but a quiet woman who was just speaking in whispers. So everyone thought I was an Aaron with an E, and they also couldn't understand a single fucking word I was saying, just because I was so anxious just to be on the phone. I was just bad with conversation. And anxiety is just, it can be triggered, it can be caused by anything, stuff that you're worrying about that has nothing to do with the current situation on hand. It can build on you, and it can stay stuck in your gut. It's kind of funny that they say butterflies in your tummy, because butterflies are like elegant and graceful and beautiful, and when you look at them, you're probably the most peaceful and serene that you can be. But when they're in your belly, it's the exact opposite of that. I never put that together. Isn't that funny? This is really ironic that's how butterflies are when they're in you. And why do they do that? I mean, that's probably them fluttering around because they're panicking, because they're being digested by your stomach acid. And if anything, you're feeling the anxiety that the butterflies are feeling, because who likes to be digested? No one. Wow. We're kind of assholes, aren't we, for having butterflies in our tummy? Yikes. I feel like an asshole. But anyways, it can be triggered by anything, anxiety, and it can cause other things to get more anxiety because you just can't let go of those thoughts. And it's really madness, and a lot of people treat anxiety with lots of stuff. Obviously, medication, Xanax. I took one Xanax once, and I didn't realize what it was like kind of meant for. I just thought, "Oh, cool, Xanax, a drug. Ooh, let's try it. Let's be crazy." And I take a Xanax. I'm like, "All right, let's watch a movie." And I just like start to get like really relaxed, but in a very slothy kind of way. And I fucking fell asleep. I woke up, and I was like, "The fuck? What happened? This is boring." And then I realized that Xanax was more for like anti-anxiety, depression kind of stuff. And I was like, that didn't really help the anxiety. That just made me forget it. It just made me be unable to really feel anything. So I fell asleep. And that doesn't seem right to me. And I've heard about other, for the record, I've never been on any sort of prescription medication. if I've ever had any issues, I've just, powered through it, and it sucked, but I just figured out a way out of it. And I understand that some people, it's harder for them and they need something to help them get through it. But I really do feel like prescription medication is tossed around like candy, and people become so dependent upon it that we're not fixing any problems. We're not helping anything. We're just masking symptoms. And the problem just continues, but it's just medicated now. And I don't support that. I don't support that. And that's not any judgment passed upon anyone who's like on medication. A lot of people are on antidepressants. It's huge. I'm not passing judgment. I just believe in fixing problems, not treating symptoms. And easier said than done, definitely. But if you're on medication and you've just been on medications for years and nothing's changed, I don't know, man. I think something's wrong with that. Let's figure out how to fix this, or just how to get better. I mean, I think ideally, no medication should ever be permanent. Obviously, some of it might have to if you have like some serious heart condition and now you have to take heart pills for the rest of your life. Fuck, man, that sucks, but all right, I get it. But if you're depressed, how do we fix this? If you have anxiety, how do we fix this? Is the medication helping you along towards the road of recovery? Awesome. But if you're just stuck in this rut of medication and we're not going anywhere, you're not going anywhere, something's got to change. Something's got to change. And look, I'm not going to act like I have the answers to that. I definitely don't. I have my own way of handling my shit, and that may or may not work for you. But I'm just saying, everyone's got to get better, not just stay at this level of just getting by. So anyways, how have I gotten over my anxiety? I wouldn't even say gotten over, like it's gone now. It's more of like, how do I deal with it? It's something that you just deal with as it comes. I just Batman the fuck up and I deal with it. No, I'm just kidding. Well, I'm half kidding. Sometimes I really do just have to bite down and just be like, fuck, there's the anxiety, whatever, but I need to keep on because I got shit to do. And sometimes I can do that, and sometimes I can't. Sometimes I'm too weak and I can't do it. And I'm drinking cold coffee. Still great though. But cycling has actually really, really helped me with my anxiety. And for a number of reasons. I mean, part of it is just becoming physically stronger and feeling better and healthier. When your body's slothy, when you have 20 more pounds on you than you feel like you should have, it's easier to be anxious. When your body doesn't feel right, your mind doesn't feel right. And by cycling alone everywhere I go, well, I can't help but be lean, and I can't help but have a proper appetite, and I can't help but put good food in me, because if I put bad food in me, I'm going to feel like horse shit, and I won't be able to ride very well, and I'm going to start cramping. So it kind of forces me to stay healthy. And which, by the way, if I didn't cycle, I would probably be like 250 pounds right now, and I would be eating like a fucking asshole. But I have no choice but to cycle. I don't own a car. I got rid of my car, and I made the decision. I can't even say it. I derailed everything. Decision. Yes, I got it. Okay. Decision. I made that choice to just ride my bike. And anyways, that's what I do. I cycle. And in that cycling, I felt better, so my mind feels better. But also, and mother forgive me, please don't freak out about this, Mom, but I've had a number of close calls, you could call them, on my bike, and also just a lot of things that a normal person just doesn't go through. Like, you ride on the side of a street that's very busy, and we're talking about the side of the street, not the sidewalk, the part of the street in between the sidewalk and the street. And once you've had a semi-truck past you in the opposite direction, and that semi, which probably weighs a ton, 2 tons, I don't know how much a semi weighs, but when you feel the wind that gets displaced by that semi, and the wind of it hits you, because the wind that gets pushed off a car isn't really strong enough to hit you on your bike. And now when we're talking about riding on the shoulder of a street, depending on the shoulder, you could have anywhere between 3 to 5 feet of space between where you're riding and where the cars are. And that's not a lot of space. If you're a shorter-ish person, that's about as tall as you are. That's the distance between my tires and the tires of the semi-truck. So when you feel the wind of that semi-truck hit you, and you realize that this, even though any one of those cars hitting me or me veering into them is certain death, when you feel the wind off a semi, and then another semi passes you, and the wind off that one was way stronger, and you realize that the first semi didn't really have that big of a load in it, and the second one was packed with stuff. And when that wind hits you, I don't know, it's hard to be very anxious over many things when after that. And that's been my life for 3 years. There's been a lot of semis. There's been a lot of cars. And just when you experience something like that, and then you get to work or you get to wherever you're going, other things that would give me anxiety before, well, those things aren't as big or as heavy as a semi, and it kind of puts things in perspective. The fragility of life itself, that there, even if you're not on a bike, even if you're in a car, you're driving a deathmobile, and there are other deathmobiles around you, and then there are super mega killer ultra deathmobiles called semi-trucks, and any one of them, their brakes could fail, and they can just slam into you, and you're just done. You're a pancake. And just when I realized that, when I take it in that perspective, I don't really worry so much about so-and-so walking up to me and me not knowing what I'm going to say. I still don't know what I'm going to say, but I'm not anxious about it. So that's an example of how cycling has kind of just tempered my my emotions. So, anxiety. How do you deal with it when you're not on a bicycle? It's something I've had to slowly figure out. And, one of the biggest things is, and this is going to sound like so silly and simple that you're going to think I'm just like kind of kidding. Excuse me, but I am definitely not. One of the best things you can do for yourself when it comes to anxiety, and really just for well-being, is to stand up straight. Yes, stand up straight. Stick your gut out a bit, pull your shoulders back, and most importantly, and this is what a lot of people forget, there's a lot of people who stand up straight but still lean their neck and head forward. That's probably the hardest thing to do. Stand up straight. Your body, that's how your body is supposed to be. A lot of people lean, they slouch, and that's so bad for your posture, which is probably the number one cause of back pain. But also, you can't breathe as fully as you could if you were standing up straight, because your lungs are basically folding over themselves a little bit when you slouch. And it makes you look good. I don't care if you're a dude, I don't care if you're a chick, it doesn't matter if you have a gut, it doesn't matter what you look like. Everyone looks better when they stand up straight. And they don't teach you that shit in school. They don't teach you that shit anywhere except for maybe a physical fitness class that but not in high school, maybe college. And You stand up straight, you look better, you feel more confident because you look confident. It really is that simple. You fake it till you make it. You look confident, you'll be confident. And you stand up straight. If you don't know how to, don't be embarrassed. A lot of people don't know how to. I didn't know how to. A friend of mine, an old friend of mine, had to show me. And it's actually it's not so much how to stand up straight, but how to tell when you're not. And that's really what it is realizing when you're not standing up straight. That's how you stand up straight. You just constantly try and be aware of when you're not standing up straight. And the best way to do that is whenever you stand up. If you're sitting, if you're laying, and then you go to a standing position, you should train yourself right then. How am I standing right now? And what that does is you'll adjust yourself, you'll get yourself in the right posture, and then as you walk into whatever room or wherever you're going, you're going to walk into that room knowing that you're standing up straight. And that alone instills so much confidence. I am not shitting you right now. That is like a tiny little way to give yourself a boost. Like that's literally casting a spell upon yourself. That's a white magic spell of confidence. And that confidence literally translates into power. It makes you powerful. It makes you the more capable. It makes you the superhero version of who you're not. But it makes you that person. And this is how you stand up straight, how you check to see if you're standing up straight. So you stand up, right? You don't do anything. Don't try and stand up straight. Just rise and then rest your arms, just relax your shoulders, relax everything. Just be the way that you are when you stand up with your hands resting at your sides, right? And then you take your thumbs and you just raise them and stick them forward. Don't do anything else. Just right now, stand up, or if you're already standing up, just relax everything. Put your arms at your side and then just make a fist and stick your thumbs forward. And if you're slouching, your thumbs are going to be pointing towards each other, kind of forming a triangle. If you're standing up straight, your thumbs should be pointing straight forward. Now, not sticking up, like you're almost giving a thumbs up sign, then you're probably standing up too straight. Don't try too hard. You look like an asshole. Just pointing straight. That's it. If your thumbs are pointing straight, you're good to go. If they're pointing inwards, you're kind of slouching a bit. So here's what you do. If they're pointing inwards, keep your thumbs out and just slowly pull your shoulders back until you'll watch. Your thumbs will start to straighten out. Don't have them pointing outwards where like you're forming a V, because now you're going too far out. And if they're actually sticking up, then you're probably just sticking your thumbs up and overcompensating because you want to feel like you're standing up straight. Standing up straight's not hard to do. It's just hard to consistently do. And I can't stress enough how important it is. Again, for well-being, and also just to look like a fucking person who's got it together, right? So anyways, you stand up straight. Breathing is also the next important thing. And when you feel anxious, you get that hot flash, breathe through your stomach. Any yoga person will tell you that breathing through your stomach is the best way to breathe. And it's hard. When you don't have that kind of training, it kind of hurts. And you also might get a little self-conscious because when you breathe through your stomach, you're basically sticking your gut out and it makes you look like 20 pounds heavier than you actually are. But you know what? Get over it. Don't focus too much on your image. Breathe through your stomach. Breathe deep, slowly. Can you hear that? I'll do it one more time. I burped a little bit. That was gross. It's important to breathe through your nose first and then breathe out through your mouth. And if you really want to do some power breathing, breathe in through your nose at a decent pace and then breathe out through your mouth very quickly, but not to the point where you're like hyperventilating, but like get some oxygen in you very quickly and then slowly start to dial it back down to a slower speed. Get yourself a nice boost of oxygen. You'd be really surprised at how you can supercharge your body because your muscles, they feed off of oxygen. When you start to get that shallow breathing from anxiety, your muscles are literally just kind of cranking down because you're suffocating them. You're suffocating everything in your body, and everything starts to suffer from that. So breathe quick. Get the you know? Get some oxygen in you. Ooh, I feel like my dick got a little hard from all that breathing. Yikes. And the other thing to do while you're doing that breathing is don't think about anything that you're thinking about currently that's giving you anxiety. Let it go for a second and just keep repeating to yourself. Just remember, this isn't permanent. This isn't permanent. Whatever's going on, whatever's uncomfortable, whatever I can't hack right now, it's not permanent. This isn't the rest of my life. But it is my life right now, but this isn't permanent. This isn't permanent. And one of the hugest things to remember is that you're not alone in this feeling of anxiety. You might be the only person in the room that's feeling it right now, but fuck, maybe you're not. You ever been at a party and you don't know anyone and you're worried and you're a little anxious? Guess what? There's probably at least 20% of the people there are also feeling the same way, but no one's talking about it with each other because everyone's afraid to look like an asshole. But you have to realize that these feelings are shared by everyone in existence since ever. You need to remember that you're not alone in it. Don't separate yourself from the feelings that you know that everyone else feels. And once you do that, you'll start to realize that you truly aren't alone in this, and that what you're feeling is not new. It's not new, and lots of other people have felt it. And just remembering that fact is makes it way easier to let go of whatever it was that was fucking around with you. That's huge. It's huge to just remember that people are people, and we all feel the exact same feelings. It's really easy to be that kind of person where you victimize yourself and you think, I'm feeling this and no one understands. No one understands how I feel, and it's just awful. I can't communicate with anyone, blah, blah, blah. And you can do that without even realizing it. In fact, most people that do that have no idea that they're doing that, and they're just sitting there anxious. It fucking sucks. They're bringing down everyone around them, but they won't communicate because they don't think that anyone understands. When reality, fucking everyone understands. You're not special. Do you want to be special in your anxiety? Do you want to be special in your problems? That sounds kind of lonely to me. I'll pass on that. So anxiety, it's never actually as bad as it seems like it is. Yeah, for sure. And I don't know. That's all I got to say about anxiety. We're gonna wrap this bitch up. So, one note in closing. Couple notes in closing. Treat homeless people like humans. Because they are. They obviously have different circumstances surrounding their life than you do, but they're just people. You might not want to shake all of their hands. Some of them are definitely sketch. Definitely. But it's bound to happen. You're going to be encountered by one. Treat them like a person. Don't treat them like they're some kind of foreign alien thing. They're not. They're just people who live a different life than you. And as it turns out, everyone is a person that lives a different life than you. So, another good way to get over anxiety is meditation. And meditation's hard for some people. It's hard for me. I like to do it, but honestly, I haven't done it in months, possibly over a year, because I just can't bring myself to be that still. But there's other ways, like cycling is a form of meditation because you go into a sort of focus on it. So that's kind of how I get to do it. Anyways, in closing, I have a track that another one that I edited It's originally a Brian Eno song. Look him up. He's a great artist. He does like rock stuff, but he also does a lot of ambient music. And I took one of his tracks and I kind of stretched it out a bit. And it's just very, very, very peaceful. So I'm going to try and make that. I'm gonna put it on the end of this podcast. I'm gonna make it as long as I can make it, so you can just listen to that thing. I'll also make it available on the Musical Musings page on the website, so you can listen to it there too. It's a track that has always been a source of just comfort for me, just to ground me and relax me, and I hope it does that for you too. So yeah, that'll be at the end of the podcast. And also, check it out in the Musical Musings page, Musical Musings. And actually soon, I think I'll have my other mini podcast up, at least 1 or 2 episodes. It'll be entitled The Gargantuanly Minuscule Podcast. It'll be like little snippets of things, so like if you want to just get a little bit of dose of me, and you don't have to listen to the biggest little podcast all the time, because these tend to be a little bit longer. You can just listen to a little bit of the Gargantuanly Minuscule Podcast. I don't know how I'm able to say all these names without fucking them up, but it's awesome. So check that out. Check out the music. Check out the next podcast. I'm not sure what it's going to be yet. I think it might be an interactive one. I think I might want to read through a comic book. I'll probably do that next. We'll see. And also another note, I know in a couple of the episodes I introduced the podcast as the Little Big Podcast, not the Biggest Little Podcast. And that's because that's what the name was originally supposed to be. And right around after I did episode 1 and 2, I figured out that there's already a podcast titled The Little Big Podcast, and it's actually the podcast that is the official podcast for the game Little Big Planet. So that sucks, because my podcast is way better than theirs, but they already have it, so I had to change it to the Biggest Little. I prefer the Little Big. Oh, you know what? Fuck it. If you want to call it the Little Big Podcast, you call it the Little Big Podcast. I really don't care what it's called, just as long as you listen to it. So anyways, I'll see you guys later. Don't freak out. Anxiety is not permanent. Much love. Peace. Mwah.